Welcome to Storytime with Pastor Steve. Today's story, The Man Who Learned to Give. It's based on Luke chapter 5. It is written by Louise Ulmer and illustrated by John D. Firestone and Associates. In a Galilee town by the city gate sat a man named Matthew each day. He worked there on business for the king. People brought him their hard-earned pay. The king needed money for new roads and streets, for armies and parks and such, but sometimes the king's men got greedy and collected far too much. 10 pennies, please, said Matthew to an old man in shabby shoes. You must bring it by tomorrow to pay the king his dues. Across the street from Matthew, in a brand new striped tent, Ben Heron did the king's business, collecting tax and rent. In his tent, at that very moment, a farmer with 3 children stood. I'll bring you the money, I promise. I'd pay you if I could. The poor father begged and pleaded, for he knew he'd never could pay all the money that the king demanded, no matter how long he'd delay. Matthew slowly looked around him at the people who stood in line. Nearly all were poor and ragged. Some were crippled, sick, and blind. He looked at the taxes collectors with their robes so silky and fine. They lived in the grandest houses and drank the richest wine. When Matthew went home to supper, he was very sad at heart. I wish I could get a job, he sighed, but I wouldn't know where to start. He wanted a new job. On the grassy hill outside of town, at twilight, Matthew went walking. At the top of the hill, a crowd sat still while a bright young man sat talking. Be kind to one another, the gentle stranger said. Be good to those you hate, for the person who thinks of himself the least is the person who will be great. What wonderful news, said Matthew, if only it could be true. But a word like that can never be. People do what they have to do. People have to get money for houses. They have to work hard all day. There is food to buy for children, and debts they have to pay. Look at the flowers, Christ told him. They don't work or sew, but the clothes they have are more beautiful than anyone else you know. Don't work for treasures this world can give. Silver and gold will rust, but work for the treasures of heaven. Give your life to God. You can trust. And that night, Matthew lay in bed thinking, wondering what he could do to be free of his old way of living, wanting to start fresh and new. In the hustle and bustle of noonday, Matthew worked by the city gate. People dropped their coins in the cash box, but their eyes were filled with hate. When suddenly Matthew saw him, standing tall above the crowd, the man called Jesus was watching him. Follow me, Jesus said clearly and loud. Matthew stood and pulled the curtains and closed his collector's booth. He had made up his mind and was certain he would follow the master's truth. And the very next thing that he planned was a party for his old friends. He arranged that the bad tax collectors and his new friend Jesus attend. Getting everybody all together. Ben Heron arrived like a royal prince in a carriage that flashed and rumbled. And then Jesus and his disciples walked in, and outside the Pharisees grumbled, for they were angry with Jesus, who ate and had parties with people who sin. They didn't know that all the people need the forgiveness that Jesus would win. Inside the house, Ben-Haran ate while Matthew began to speak. I've given up my tax job, he said, to start a new job this week. I'm working for Jesus, the Son of God, beginning this very day. You must be crazy, Ben-Haran laughed. What made you decide that way? So Matthew tried to explain to all of happiness Jesus can bring. I want to live the way Jesus lives, to be kind and happy and sing. I want to work for things that matter, the riches of heaven above. I've found that I've always wanted, he said, not houses or diamonds, but love. And each day Jesus continued to show the people how they should live, and Matthew learned to never forget that the best part of love is to give. I hope that we, like Matthew, learn that what really matters is love, and that we are called to follow Jesus, so we don't need to have all the newest and best things, but God promises to bless us. As we love others, he will share his love with us. May God give us the courage to love people, even those who, like the tax collectors, some people think are unlovable. May God fill you with his love today.